Before Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin constructed their own melodious upper floors, Atlantic Records was known as the house that Ruth built. One of the first artists signed to Ahmet Ertegun and Herb Abramson's Newborn label, Brown rocketed to a top 5 debut on the R&B chart with her 1949 debut single, So Long. She reigned at number 1 for multiple weeks just a year later with Teardrops from My Eyes. That song was the first in a remarkable, and then unheard of, string of number 1 and top 10 hits throughout the 50s, including The 10th of May 15 Hours, Mama, He Treats Your Daughter Mean, Oh What a Dream, and I Want to Do More. Nicknamed Miss Rhythm for her versatile vocal expertise, described alternately as sassy, stately, playful but always powerful, Brown later won a Tony, appeared in the 1988 film classic Hairspray and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993. Gail Mitchell Must Listen song, Teardrops from My Eyes, view the full article. In a career spanning 60 years, beginning as a teen in the R&B jazz girl group The Creolettes, rechristened by black bandleader mentor Otis James as the Peaches, Etta James, born Jamesetta Hawkins, remains one of the most iconic voices in R&B. Scoring her Peaches breakthrough in 1955 with the chart-topping The Wallflower, James started cementing her legend status through solo turns such as All I Could Do Was Cry, Trust in Me, and what became her signature track 1960's At Last. Pop and R&B icon Beyoncé later portrayed the inimitable rock and roll and Grammy Hall of Famer in the 2008 film Cadillac Records, a biodrama about James's longtime label Chess Records. James helped usher in a vital era of blues and R&B, as she battled personal demons along the way, to ultimately become an undeniably influential force in music history. Angel Diaz Must Listen song, At Last, view the full article. Since adopting the stage name HER in 2016, the singer-born Gabriella Wilson has been shrouded in mystery. She eschewed photographs and videos altogether for years. And even after finally revealing herself, it's rare that you'll see her without a pair of oversized sunglasses covering most of her face. But the Grammy, Emmy and Academy Award-winning singer-songwriter's music more than speaks for itself. Her name is an acronym for Having Everything Revealed, and through a string of EPs released in the late 2010s before her 2021 studio debut Back of My Mind, she pairs prodigious instrumental talents, playing piano, drums, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, and bass guitar, with vulnerable, open-hearted songwriting, yielding such songs as Could Have Been, Hard Place, Fight for You, and I Can't Breathe. WK Must Listen song, Damage, view the full article. Phyllis Hyman's mellifluous contralto and inventive embellishments transformed every song into magic. She covered Betcha by Golly Wow on Norman Connor's 1976 You Were My Starship set and sang the Barry Manilow-produced Somewhere in My Lifetime on her Arista debut. From the up-tempo You Know How to Love Me to ballads Can't We Fall in Love Again with Michael Henderson, No One Can Love You More, and I Refuse to Be Lonely, Hyman poured raw emotion onto every track. A riveting live performer, Hyman starred in Broadway's Sophisticated Ladies and appeared in Spike Lee's 1988 sophomore film School Days. Tragically, she ended her life in June 1995. Janine Coveney Must Listen song, Living All Alone, view the full article. Initially drawing buzz in the early with indie releases Soul Singer and Feeling Orange but Sometimes Blue, Ledisi's 4-octave mezzo-soprano vocal prowess continues to mesmerize, most recently when the singer-songwriter performed a compelling live rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Black National Anthem, at this year's Super Bowl 59 pregame festivities. Telling Downbeat magazine that, I'm not your boxed R&B singer, the prolific Ledisi has steadfastly crafted a catalog of 12 studio albums featuring colorful forays into R&B, soul, funk, pop and jazz. Fan faves paving that journey include All Right, In the Morning, I Blame You, and Anything for You, the latter of which yielded her first Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance in 2021. GM Must Listen song, Pieces of Me, view the full article. Before Ashanti bloomed into a full-blown R&B superstar in the 2000s, she was a burgeoning songwriter lobbing assists with Chris Paul precision to rap giants. After leaving her fingerprints on Big Pun's How We Roll, Irv Gotti's R&B golden child became a force, creating magic on Hot 100 thrillers like Ya Rule's Always on Time, and Fat Joe's What's Love, which held down the top 2 spots on the Hot 100 simultaneously in 2002. That same year, Ashanti catapulted to fame with the release of her debut single as a lead artist, the heartbreaking Foolish, which spent 10 weeks at number 1 on the Hot 100. From 2002 to 2003, Ashanti's torrid run was untouchable, as she scorched earth with a bevy of top 40 singles like Baby and Happy, plus the back-to-back Billboard 200 chart toppers, Ashanti in Chapter 2. CL, must-listen song, Foolish. View the full article. Fantasia first captured listeners' hearts in 2004 as the winner of American Idol, drawing comparisons to legendary singers like Aretha Franklin and Tina Turner with her powerful, church-honed vocals and unshakable stage presence. I Believe, her first single after winning the show, debuted at #1 on the Hot 100, putting her in rarefied air with Ms. Lauryn Hill. But in the years since, she's proven that she's more than a lightning-in-a-bottle reality TV star. Garnering a Best Female R&B Vocal Performance Grammy statuette for Bittersweet in 2011 after a dozen nominations, Fantasia has also showcased her talents in the Broadway and film adaptations of The Color Purple. WK, must-listen song, When I See You. View the full article. Introduced by Quincy Jones on Tomorrow, the lead single from his Grammy-winning 1989 album Back on the Block, Tevin Campbell was just 14 when he recorded his 1991 debut album Tevin. But he had truly found his voice by the time his sophomore album arrived in 1991. I'm Ready paired his sweet tenor with songwriting and production by goats like Kenneth Babyface Edmonds and Prince. Two of Edmonds' contributions, Can We Talk and the title track, are songs that allowed Campbell a chance to deliver earnest, wholesome longing for love, sentiments that made for some of the sturdiest ballads that R&B had to offer in the 90s. WK, music listen song, Can We Talk. View the full article. With her incredibly intricate, rapid-fire riffs ready to color her singular, idiosyncratic songwriting, Jazmine Sullivan stands as one of contemporary R&B's greatest treasures. Heavily inspired by the neo-soul of her native Philadelphia, Penn, Sullivan's two-time Grammy-winning catalog explores the ins and outs of modern Black love and relationship dynamics while maintaining her connection to blues, jazz and gospel. She's collected 2 chart toppers from 6 adult R&B Airplay Top 10 hits, and each of her full-length projects has spun out several cult classics and street hits, from 2008's Need You Bad to 2020's Pick Up Your Feelings. KD, must-listen song, masterpiece, Mona Lisa. View the full article. Before he was a 4-word catchphrase, Rick James carried the Motown banner into the 1980s with a delicious blend of funk, rock, disco and R&B nearly unrecognizable from the storied label's clean-cut, friendly 1960s and 1970s classics. But that was James, a free-spirited author who wrote his own rules. And while that often came with personal costs, his boldness forged a rich catalog whose highlights, Give It To Me Baby, Mary Jane, and the like, build on the creativity of contemporaries like Stevie Wonder, Parliament and Prince. And long before TikTok was the engine for throwback revivals, Chappelle's Show enshrined the man's name into immortality with a simple declaration, I'm Rick James, bitch. Alright then, Trevor Anderson must-listen song, Give It To Me Baby. View the full article. From her melodic contributions on the Fugees' 1996 blockbuster Sophomore set the score to her own groundbreaking 1998 debut with The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, Ms. Lauryn Hill effortlessly towed the line between hip-hop and R&B. Her genre-shifting talents across those 2 albums reoriented perceived musical boundaries between R&B, funk, jazz, boom bap and pop. While no sophomore effort has yet appeared, Miseducation alone was enough for the polymath to nab 5 Grammys in 1999, including Album of the Year and Best New Artist. The test of time has been extremely kind to her work as her R&B and hip-hop prowess continues to influence many of today's buzzing new singers. MCG must-listen song, X Factor. View the full article. Rihanna's genre-bending sound, anchored by her Caribbean roots, has made her one of the most successful crossover artists in R&B, pop. Her first 2 albums, Music of the Sun and A Girl Like Me, flaunted her youthful fusion of breezy dancehall rhythms, sultry R&B melodies and radio-friendly, dance-pop sensibilities. But 2007 LP Good Girl Gone Bad marked a career turning point with the emergence of Bad Gal Riri, characterized by synth-heavy electronic production, hip-hop swagger and a grown and sexy persona that persisted throughout subsequent albums. Then Rihanna brought R&B back to the forefront of her sound on 2016's Chef Derv Anti, recognizing old traditions like the doo-wop inspired ballad, Love on the Brain, and the bluesy ditty, Higher, to riding the alt R&B wave with her Tame Impala cover, Same Ol' Mistakes, and the SZA featuring Consideration. While her musical career hangs in the balance, Rihanna's reign won't ever let up. HM must-listen song, Umbrella. View the full article. SCA's girl next door charisma and emotional complexity attracted awkward black girls everywhere, but her boundary-pushing R&B has since expanded her audience. The beautiful, eccentric melodies and indie rock, neo-soul and trap influences on 2017 debut studio album Control gave SZA an edge. And her deeristic songwriting explored adolescent anxieties and insecurities, from questioning if she's beautiful enough to empathizing with those trying to get their ST together in their 20s. Its long-awaited sequel, SOS, took everything up a notch, diversifying her sound by diving into gospel, grunge and surf rock. SOS continues to smash chart records, like spending the most weeks in the top 10 of the Billboard 200 among albums by women, proving that artists with an R&B foundation like SZA can successfully break through the genre's borders and ascend into pop's upper echelon. HM Must Listen Song, Love Galore, view the full article. Dionne Warwick is often seen these days dropping the occasional wisecrack on X. But that belies the fact that she's one of the most charted vocalists of all time. Beginning her career in the early 1960s, she paired her dynamic, distinctive vocals over pop gems by revered songwriter, producers Burt Bacharach and Hal David, one of the few black artists to score major crossover success during that period. From there, Warwick ventured into jazz, R&B and gospel. She counts 56 singles that charted on the Billboard Hot 100 between 1962 and 1998, with 12 of them making the top 10 from I Say a Little Prayer to That's What Friends Are For. Warwick has continued to occasionally release new music in her golden years and, as recently as June 2025, she's still impressing live audiences with her fabulous, lilting vocals. WK Must Listen Song, Walk On by, view the full article. Despite an all-too-brief life, Aaliyah shaped the first era of R&B stars reared in hip-hop culture. Describing her style as sweet but street, Aaliyah married her honeyed, airy falsetto with the exciting, street-savvy beats courtesy of her most frequent collaborators, Timbaland, Missy Elliott and R. Kelly, for gems such as One in a Million, Are You That Somebody? And Try Again. She further expanded that musical sense with an effortlessly cool demeanor in her fashion choices and music videos. Of course, we'll always wonder about the what-ifs, but even with less than a decade between her career's start and her tragic death in 2001, Aaliyah created a legacy that has echoed for generations. TA Must Listen Song, Are You That Somebody? View the full article. Christopher Bro went by Lonnie Bro when he wrote songs for R&B heavyweights like Beyoncé, John Legend and Alicia Keys. But as Frank Ocean, he changed the genre forever. His 2011 debut mixtape Nostalgia, Ultra recontextualized the conversational flow of hip-hop and the gritty, trippy instrumentation of indie and classic rock, borrowing from the Eagles, MGMT and Coldplay, while keeping R&B, soul's emotional vulnerability at the heart of his music. Ocean's 2012 Grammy-winning debut album Channel Orange then rewrote the narrative for black queer artists in the R&B, hip-hop space after dropping cult favorite visual album Endless. Ocean independently released Blonde. The experimental magnum opus features flashes of psychedelic pop, avant soul and electronica, accented by multi-layered, pitch-changing vocals outlining the artist's continued exploration of queerness, black masculinity and existentialism. The project reinforced Ocean's ongoing status as a culture-shifting genius, despite his vexatious absence. HM Must Listen Song, Thinkin' 'Bout You, view the full article. A piano-playing savant, Alicia Keys brought a classicism to R&B in the 2000s with a soulful coup that took her from Hell's Kitchen to the top of the Billboard charts at just 20 years old. Hits like No One, Fallin', and Usher's My Boo have become ingrained in and part of the DNA of 21st century R&B. Keys joined fellow New York dignitary Jay-Z to craft the unofficial Big Apple anthem, Empire State of Mind, in 2009, which topped the Hot 100 and has since been certified diamond by the RIA. A 17-time Grammy Award winner, Keys is the living embodiment of reaching the highest commercial heights of R&B while never sacrificing an ounce of creative integrity in her vision. MS Must Listen Song, If I Ain't Got You, view the full article. Whether Beyoncé is covering her songs or Kendrick Lamar is name-checking her in his album intros, Anita Baker always finds a way to remind the world that she's one of the queens of Quiet Storm. Hailing from Detroit, Michigan by way of Toledo, Ohio, the 8-time Grammy winner has earned 5 adult R&B airplay toppers, including 1994's I Apologize and 2004's You're My Everything, thanks to her rich, expansive contralto. Her 1986 Rapture LP ranks among the best and most impactful R&B albums of its time, even penetrating top 40 with the now signature hits Sweet Love, Caught Up in the Rapture, and her cover of You Bring Me Joy. Still a consistent touring act in the 2020s, Baker also emerged victorious in her fight for ownership of her masters, underscoring her impact outside of the studio. KD Must Listen song, Been So Long, view the full article. As one of neo-soul's pioneers, Erykah Badu emerged in 1997 as a rebellious and uncontainable force. Seamlessly intertwining R&B with African rhythms, jazz and hip-hop, Badu's groundbreaking debut album Baduizm, featuring On and On, Other Side of the Game, and Next Lifetime, redefined what was possible in soul music. Her reflective themes about relationships, social justice and self-empowerment made her as lyrically profound as the most impactful rappers. After the Grammy-winning Baduizm, Badu and her elastic, emotive vocals further cemented her icon status thanks to insightful albums and cultural touchstones such as Tyrone, Bag Lady, and Back in the Day. Aside from Badu's musical artistry, her mesmerizing live performances, cutting-edge fashion sense and savvy business acumen are just a few more reasons why she's one of the most important singers in R&B history. MCG Must Listen song, Didn't Shaw Know, view the full article. A teenage Chris Brown exploded onto the R&B scene in the mid-2000s with an undeniable charm that sparked major heart fluttering across the globe. Breezy's engaging 4-octave range and smooth dance moves drew comparisons to Michael Jackson as he's since evolved into one of music's premier all-around entertainers. The Virginia native also continues to churn out hits with ease, 17 Hot 100 top 10s to be exact, not to mention 118 total entries and counting on the chart. That impressive tally includes breakthrough single Run It, She Ain't You, No Guidance, Under the Influence and Residuals. Now celebrating his 20th anniversary in music with the global stadium tour Breezy Bowl 20, Brown has developed a die-hard fan base that's stuck with him through thick and thin. A 25-time Grammy nominee, Brown won his second Gramophone in February for Best R&B Album with 1111 Deluxe. MS Must Listen song, Forever, view the full article. Patti LaBelle is one of the most beloved songstresses in R&B. She launched her 5-decade career in the 1960s as the frontwoman of the Bluebells, a group that eventually rechristened itself as LaBelle and released the Hot 100 and Hot R&B, hip-hop songs chart topper, Lady Marmalade, in 1974 before disbanding a couple years later. From the late 70s onward, the prolific LaBelle earned the nickname, the Godmother of Soul, owing to more than a dozen solo albums and the crafting of classic slow jams like, If Only You Knew, and Love, Need and Want You, her emotion-ringing, On My Own, duet with Michael McDonald and her energetic vocal flexing on, New Attitude, and Stir It Up, from 1985's Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack. WK Must Listen song, Love, Need and Want You, view the full article. Luther Vandross will always be on a first-name basis with R&B lovers. A gifted singer, producer and songwriter, Vandross initially established himself as a backup vocalist for icons such as Stevie Wonder, Roberta Flack and David Bowie before starting his solo reign in the 1980s-90s as one of R&B's most dominant forces. Beyond a long list of Vandross-stamped songs such as Never Too Much, Any Love, and Dance with My Father, there are the dulcet-toned duets with Mariah Carey, Beyoncé and Janet Jackson, plus his unique reinterpretations of songs like Dionne Warwick's A House Is Not a Home. Years after his passing in 2005, the Velvet Voice was introduced to a whole new generation when Kendrick Lamar sampled Vandross and Cheryl Lynn's 1982 take on Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell's If This World Were Mine for their own chart-topping duet, Luther, further underscoring Vandross' lasting legacy. WK Must Listen song, Never Too Much, view the full article. Otis Redding's death at the age of 26 in a 1967 plane crash is one of the greatest losses in music. Over the course of his brief but incalculably influential career, Redding reinvigorated R&B as rock music threatened to eclipse it in the mid-60s, inspiring everyone from Aretha Franklin, whose signature song, Respect, was written by him, to the Rolling Stones. Redding could slide from lost and lovelorn to fervent and furious almost imperceptibly over the course of a 2-minute single. As remarkable as his rough, raspy tone was, his pen was just as mighty, with Redding writing everything from the playful, Mr. Pitiful, and F.A.F.A.F.A.F.A. sad song, to the bluesy, begging Old Man Trouble, to all-timers like the posthumously released Sittin' On, The Dock of the Bay, and the aforementioned Respect. But to get a full picture of the breadth of his talent and the immensity of his loss, go no further than the explosive, runaway train version of Try a Little Tenderness that he brought to the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. More than half a century later, it's still drenched in sweat, JL Must Listen song, Try a Little Tenderness, view the full article. Al Green, who still holds church in Memphis as the Reverend Al Green on Sundays, wasn't the first artist to seesaw between crooning about God and sex, but he just might be the best. His unmistakable vocal tone is soaked in that push-pull tension, sweet yet lascivious, secular yet spiritual, gritty yet tender. Backed by come hither horns and a metronome-tight rhythm section, Green set the standard for soul music sensuality in the 70s with his nimble falsetto and aching moans, trotting out an effortlessly sexy, smooth run of LPs on High Records while other R&B singers begged or peacocked around their partners. Green played it cool, stating his case on low-key but irresistible soft sells such as Let's Stay Together and Call Me, Come Back Home. And when he stretched his Memphis funk muscles on classics like Take Me to the River and Love and Happiness, Green proved that gospel was part and parcel of his palette well before he officially pivoted to religious music in the 80s. JL Must Listen song, Tired of Being Alone, view the full article. Mary J. Blige turned her pain into gold and platinum plaques as she rose to prominence in the early 90s, singing about love and empowerment, which resonated with millions looking inward as Blige's brutally honest vocals pierced their souls. The Yonkers native, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year, redefined R&B at a time when New York hip-hop was entering its golden age. Rappers from 50 Cent to Jay-Z and Ludacris turned to the queen of hip-hop soul to further elevate their tracks with a fierce vulnerability they couldn't get anywhere else. Blige's triumphant anthems invoking joy and sadness, among them Love Number Limit, I'm Going Down, Not Gone, Cry, and the Dr. Dre-produced Party Jam, Family Affair, have become as symbolic as the 9-time Grammy winner's signature thigh-high boots. MS Must Listen song, Real Love, view the full article. With his funky falsetto, Chicago-born Mayfield first showcased his brilliance as songwriter and performer with 1960s impressions hits, People Get Ready, I'm So Proud of You, and Keep On Pushing. A knack for civil rights anthems, impeccable storytelling, and grooves like Freddie's Dead, Pusher Man, and the title track made 1972's Superfly soundtrack into searing social commentary. The landmark album, only Mayfield's third as a solo artist, is preserved by the Library of Congress National Recording Registry. His 1974 Claudine was a tour de force of first-person character development while 1976's Sparkle gave us the Aretha Franklin hits, Jump, and Giving Him Something He Can Feel. JC Must Listen song, Superfly, view the full article. The ultimate triple threat entertainer, Usher personified the gold standard of R&B hit-making in the late 90s and early 2000s, with songs like You Make Me Wanna, You Remind Me, and You Got It Bad. Then his magnum opus arrived in 2004 with the Diamond Certified Confessions album. The Grammy-winning, 14 times platinum project debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and produced 4 number 1 singles, Yeah, Burn, Confessions Part 2, and My Boo, for as dominant a commercial run as the genre has ever seen. 2 decades later, Usher embarked on a well-deserved victory lap while headlining the Apple Music Super Bowl 58 halftime show and showcasing his live performance mastery. Usher has proven to be the blueprint for achieving a sustainable, successful career, rising from childhood star to R&B deity, while his baby face hasn't aged a day in the process. MS Must Listen song, Confessions Part 2, view the full article.